Tough questions, honest answers. Real talk with the City of Oshawa.
Hi, everybody. It's Dan Carter, the mayor for the great city of Oshawa and the host of Real Talk. I'm excited to welcome you to this unique podcast that I hope will inspire authentic conversations and take on topics that are important to you. My hope is that we address issues that impact our province, our country, from affordability to the challenges in the housing market, homelessness, healthcare, the opiate crisis, and of course, the political environment. Oh, yeah. And by the way, we'll talk maybe a little bit about tariffs. I know that our guests over the next year will bring a different ideas and perspectives to the issues that we are facing. So let's get started with today's guest. I have the absolute pleasure of being able to welcome Alex Nuttall. He is the mayor for the great city of Barrie, Ontario, and also my friend and the vice chair, I believe, of OBCM, which is Ontario Big City Mayor's Caucus. And Alex, always a pleasure. How you doing, bud?
Good, thanks. Good. It's good to see you and catch up.
I know now I didn't get the opportunity to be in Thunder Bay with you, and I understand that OBCM, a lot of the members were there. Good meetings. Were you pleased about what was discussed and the progress that OBCM is making?
Yeah, I think it was really good in the sense that we were able to get together, talk about some of the issues that are affecting a lot of the larger and mid-sized cities in the province, and really get our heads around some of the things that are coming down the line. So, just like you were saying in your introduction to today's Real Talk, all of those same issues were discussed, talked about, and strategized in Thunder Bay. And it was nice to be able to get up there because our friendly mayor of Thunder Bay has announced he's not going to be running again, and he spent 50 years elected up there. So it was really neat to join him.
Isn't that incredible, Ave, when you think about it, being elected or serving for 50 years? We've got a couple other guys like that. I mean, Gord Krantz has been around, I think, since 1963 or 67. Rob Burton has been around a long time. Of course, Hazel was around for a long time. You've got to admire those individuals that have put their name on a ballot and continue to serve for so many years, and you admire what they bring to the table. So that's incredible. Absolutely incredible. How long have you served now, both in this role and your previous roles in public office?
It'll be 16 years, Dan. 16 years. So I was elected in 06 to 14 on the municipal level, city councillor for Ward 10 in Barrie, and then I spent 4 years at the federal level, and now this will be 4 years as mayor, and I've done a bunch of other things on the provincial and federal levels that have not been fully elected, but just involved in elected politics outside of that.
I don't know if I should ask you this, but I'm presuming that you're going to run again in 26.
Look, I haven't fully decided, but I love what I do, and I love being able to have a positive impact. And I think a lot of the projects that we've started in the city of Barrie, whether it's getting our credit rating, we just received a AAA credit rating last week, working with our incredible public servants on that who are so skilled, and then things over affordable housing, homelessness, a performing arts center, university. There's a lot of things that are midway right now that I wouldn't want to see fall off of the wagon, if you will. And so I have the fight for it. I certainly have the passion for it. But it's a family decision, as you know. You got to make these decisions in unison with everything else that's happening in your family life. And so, I think we'll be talking about that over the next kind of 6 months and then make a decision.
Well, I hope the decision is yes, because I think you've done an extraordinary job for Barrie. You've also represented the province in a very, very good way. At the same time, you've stood in very difficult and challenging places. And I want to talk about that a little bit, because not only did you stand strong in regards to some of the policies with myself and other mayors in regards to homelessness, but you also had to make some tough decisions in Barrie. And one of those tough decisions that made the national headlines was, of course, a state of emergency that you called for Barrie. Can you take us back a little bit and just let us know what led you to that decision? And that was probably a very difficult decision for you to make, because it triggers a whole bunch of different things. But can you take us back to why you made that decision and why it was important for you to make that decision?
Yeah, I think the issue that we had at the time was one that didn't start overnight. We're talking about 10, 12 years of encampments, and we were struggling to know what to do with it to go forward. We had tried a couple of years ago to bring some bylaws in. I think we were effective in achieving what we wanted to achieve, but we didn't end up passing the actual bylaws. And so over time, what we saw was there was, a continuing issue getting worse and worse. The number of people who were in encampments, the number of drugs and victims both inside and around encampments. It was a very, very difficult situation to see. And then this summer, it exploded. We had a double homicide that had occurred inside of an encampment. Those homicides, at least one of them was months in advance. There was dismemberment of the bodies. And so when we went into this encampment, when I say we, I mean the police department went in and they shut it down because they need to control the site where all of the evidence is. They managed to basically shut down one out of, I'll call it 4 of our large encampments that existed. We also found there was other issues like the amount of waste, the amount of stolen property, the buildings that were built in there. I'm sure you've seen some of the pictures and video coming out. And we realized there was literally feces going right into our stream that goes down to our public beach. And then we pull water out of the lake and it's drinking water. So, we realized that the E. coli levels were upwards of 5 times what should close down the surface water, the public waterways. And that was in the creek, not in the lake. So it kind of all came together. The province then stepped in and said, we have an environmental emergency. And so that was our first 2 encampments. So they were kind of across the street from each other, probably our longest standing encampments in the city. And so all of that, we had shut them down, but we just realized, hey, this is just not a sustainable thing. Right? This is not a sustainable way of life for an individual. Neither is it sustainable in our community. And decided we're going to take action. And we're going to take action that doesn't leave an individual behind if they're choosing to get help. We want to be the place where you can get help, but we also want to be the place where we hold the standards of what a boulevard or a park or a forest or a street what they are and how they should be and how safe they should be. And that's what the emergency's done for us. It's allowed us to bring all of the local prioritization from the different agencies and levels of government in the county and the city and the province all under one emergency management team so that we can tackle the problem with everybody else falling under our vision of what the streets of Barrie and the parks of Barrie should be versus begging others to come on board and help us get where we need to go.
So has it rolled out the way you wanted it? Are you seeing the type of actions that you are desiring when you had to make these tough decisions? Because I think for a lot of us that saw the television coverage, there was a lot of coverage about those that were being displaced, but there was little coverage in regards to what you were doing to make sure that people had a place to go, that you had shelter offered, that you had supports that you were offering. So, have you had the desired outcome that you hoped that this would bring?
Look, I think this is going to take months, maybe not a year, but months to actually get there in terms of achieving what we set out to achieve, which is no tents in the city. Let me ask you a question before I say whether it's successful or not. What number do you believe would be a success rate that was something that other municipalities should emulate in terms of the number of percentage of individuals who are getting housing help, rehabilitation help, mental health supports help?
Well, for me, the number has to be 100%. I mean, that's how I feel. And I think that I know in our circumstance, 96% of the individuals won't accept our help, but it doesn't stop us from trying, just like you continue to try on a daily basis. So until we have 100% people getting the right care at the right time, the right shelter with the right supportive aspects, I don't find anything under that as being successful for me. And I'm just speaking about my desire, and that's how I measure it.
I think you're right about that in terms of the goal being 100%. I also think, just to throw maybe a counterpoint out there, when you get 50% of the folks help, you can then concentrate on the 50% who didn't accept. And so your resources become more and more and more focused. It's more like a funnel than it is anything else, right? And so we've now, to answer your question, we've hit over 80%, I think it's 82% between the county and the city, of the individuals that we have asked to take help have accepted help. That's a big number. Now we're 18% off, okay, which is your point. It's like, well, there's still 18% out there, so it's not done. and it's not done. But I would say that that is a major step in the right direction.
Alex, can I ask you something? Did you have to do this by yourself? Did the province help you at all? Did the Fed step in? Did Muskoka Health step in? Like, have you had to carry most of the investments in the strategies on behalf of the ratepayers and residents of Barrie?
The answer to that is I would if I had to. I think what we did with the emergencies, we gave our staff an unlimited budget to fix the problem. Funnily enough, what's happened is that the county has stepped up significantly. That is, I know the want was there before, but the imminent action needed now was not there, in my opinion. And since then, we've been able to really move forward. Some of that is the city moving some roadblocks out of the way with regards to building code issues we were dealing with to get shelter space available, et cetera. And some of it is a want to just get it done now from the county. But it all falls under, like, we had this very segmented set of organizations, the city doing bylaw, the police department, the fire department doing their thing, the county doing their social service thing, the agencies coming in through the county, but not really being accountable to any of the funding partners, i.e. the city of Barrie or the province. And what this emergency order has done for us is allowed us to consolidate what the standards and the vision are in Barrie. And I say, I don't think this works everywhere equally, okay? And I think you and I have, had the opportunity to talk about that in the past. But for us, that's what it did. It removed the silos and allowed the city to set the standard of what the expectation is on the streets of the city of Barrie.
I'm going to take some of this offline because I want to learn more about that, because in our circumstance, we're lower tier and therefore we have to depend on upper tier. Upper tier not only has the purse strings, but also have the resources and the expertise. They also are representing 8 different municipalities, so there's 8 different challenges across the way, but we are in the center of the storm, and to try and get them to actually realize that we need different resources and different investments than others has been very difficult. So you and I'll have to talk about that offline. But can I ask you something? Did it help? The premier came out and saw you, and his team came out to see you when you made the state of emergency. Did you take a lot of criticism from those that felt that you were displacing people and you weren't going to do anything about it? And did it help that the premier came out and saw what you were trying to accomplish and lent his voice in regards to the support of the actions that you had to take as a mayor?
So the first answer is, there's definitely those that are not supportive of the actions we've taken. There are those who aren't supportive because they don't know what actions we've taken, but they presume that they're negative. And there are those who aren't supportive because they believe that any movement that makes an individual living in an encampment more uncomfortable is a bad one. And so, there might be others, and I just don't know or understand the other points of view, but those are the 2 points of view that I've run into.
And the media didn't help, Alex, with the narrative that they put out there. They the narrative they put out was you're removing them, they got no place to go, and nobody's going to help them, which is not what you guys had put place. And I was disappointed that wasn't part of the conversation that was covered appropriately. Sorry to interrupt. Did the premier help?
So before I get to the premier help, because I think it's really important we talk about the media point that you're just saying, if you're okay with me throwing this out there. Today's National Post, if you go to the bottom right corner of the first page, Canadians want encampments gone with 57% favoring emergency declaration, and they quote, obviously, the city of Barrie declaring emergency and removing encampments. The numbers there are actually 2/3, 1/3, because once you take those who don't have an opinion out of it, it becomes 2/3, 1/3 in favor of the decisions to declare emergencies in their own communities across Canada. And that was a Nanos poll that was done. If you want to access the Nanos poll, the CTV has the poll. And I didn't know this was happening. It just kind of got dropped on my desk an hour before we were coming on. But it's quite interesting that the same medias that were saying, how are you handling the displacements of people? Like they weren't displaced when they went into an encampment, which we know that they have been. Otherwise, there'd be a roof overhead and supports in place. Are now publishing polls that are saying that 2/3 of people agree with the position that we took in the city of Barrie. That tells me that we've done a good job on it. Like, we've got the communication out that we don't want people left alone. It's actually quite the opposite. We don't want to leave people alone in encampments. We want to help them get into help, into support, to have a roof over one's head, to get the all these things. And what the Premier did by coming was he gave us, number one, the legitimacy that this is a much wider problem and far-reaching problem than what used to be Toronto. You know, when you think about Barrie, you think of, it still has that kind of small town brand, you know, working folks. It's what we're known as, right? And then you see this thing happening, you know, in small Barrie. It's like, how is this happening? So the Premier gave us legitimacy on how bad the problem was. He also gave us legitimacy on our concerns that we weren't getting the funding into the right places that were flowing through to the county, and the county stepped up on that, as I've said. And the third thing he did was he, I think, was able to see for himself how bad a problem was being had here and how difficult it is for municipalities, because Barrie's facing it. You know that everywhere between Barrie and around the GTA and down through southwestern Ontario and Ottawa, etc. And we know the problems up in Thunder Bay. We know the problems up in Sudbury. So I think it put some perspective for him on how widespread it was.
Even with the Premier coming to see you, the work that you've done, the criticism, the difficult place that you stood, but you stood there because you care for people. I know you well enough that your opinion is it's inhumane to watch people suffer this way. We've got to do everything we possibly can to help those that want help. You and I were in Ottawa in August. And you had to be sight impaired not to see the devastating effects that it's had in Ottawa, which begs the question, do you think everybody gets it, including our federal government? Because it just seems like it's not connecting with people to see the severity of what we're talking about. And I like, do you think they get it?
No, I don't. When I got to Ottawa in 2015, as a member of Parliament, Dan, there was this video that one of my staff members showed me, and you can go find this, of a brawl taking place in a McDonald's in the middle of the night. And a gentleman is there. He literally pulls a raccoon out of his sweater and starts holding the raccoon up in different people who were fighting. That was clearly related to homelessness, mental health, and drug addiction. And that was when I got to Ottawa in 2015. We're now a decade later. It's only gotten worse. You and I have probably both been to Ottawa. I've been there probably 300 times since then. And you've been there 20 times since then, probably. And every time we go, it gets worse and worse. I don't understand why the federal government has not declared an emergency on this. I don't understand why there hasn't been a strategy to fund mental health and rehabilitative services. And I don't understand why they never stepped in and stopped the spread. You know, like every other healthcare issue, the government steps in and tries to stop the spread. Go to COVID-19, and I'm going to get criticized for comparing COVID-19 with, mental health and addiction, but I'm going to anyway. If you go to COVID, like it was like stop the spread, save lives. But this one, it's Vancouver started in, and it just took the Trans-Canada across until you get to Sudbury, and then it went south towards Toronto, and then it went east towards Halifax. And you can literally watch the articles hitting. Why was there nobody stopping the spread of opiates, of fentanyl, of carfentanil, of the drug dealers and the cartels that control this? Why was there no intervention by the federal government? And there still isn't to this day.
And you know what I think, I think it's fair to be able to compare to COVID, and I'll tell you why. Is because there was a state where people were starting to die. Hospitalization rates were going up. The infection rate was going up. What is happening with this particular issue? The Western wave, we've watched it really in slow motion since about 2012, 2011, come all the way across the country. And we found the resources under COVID to do the right things to be able to make sure we addressed it. In this circumstance, it just seems we know what's necessary. You and I know that there's some ideas and concepts that are coming out of Alberta, and there's some conversation that we're going to need about 33 treatment facilities across Ontario just to be able to address what we need. Over 3,000 beds that are needed in regards to addressing the severity of this. It just seems when COVID hit, we found a way way of being able to address it. I still remember your great city being hit by a tornado way back in the 80s. The community came together, resources came together. Why? Because of the reason that the moment demanded it, and those resources were necessary. It wasn't blind. Everybody could see the damage that was done. So everybody came together. The same circumstance here. I mean, I don't know how you can continue to ignore it, especially when you have not only FCM, AMO, Ontario Big City Mayors Caucus, everybody else talking about it. It's the number one issue on the docket every time we speak. I know we're running out of time, and I really respect your time. I want to talk a little bit, if you don't mind. And by the way, I give you all the credit in the world, and I have a great deal of respect for you because of not only the actions you took, but the commitment you've made in regards to saying it's not okay to see people sit and suffer in conditions that are inhumane. We've got to change the narrative on that. So I give you a lot of credit for that. I want to talk to you about the economics that we're facing right now and some of the struggles that are going on. Bring us up to date. What's happening in your community based upon some of the decisions that are being made down south? Are you seeing a ripple effect in Barrie? Are you concerned about the impact that tariffs are having? And are you concerned about, what the future looks like, especially to the midterms next November?
Oh man, the answer to that is yes. That's a big subject matter in and unto itself. I think that the way that our communities, Dan, feel these things are different. And I think that you might feel them sooner than we do, mainly because I think President Trump has identified the auto sector as a place to inflict pain in Canada and find wins in the United States. And we do have a big, auto presence here in terms of parts manufacturers and supporting the Honda plant and all of that's in Alliston. But I think the pain that we felt was related more to not continuing or at least shelving for a time the Honda electrification plant that had been planned for Alliston. And so we didn't feel the immediate pain because it was a plan that was shelved, not an actual active plant. There certainly has been, I think, some pain related to other moves in and around the existing plant, but not to the same breadth and heaviness as in other places. So I hold my breath when I say all that, because maybe it's tomorrow or maybe it's next Wednesday or that we get more bad news. But in many ways, I think we've been fairly insulated because of it was future investment that I think President Trump wanted to see removed by Honda and put into the United States versus a current making of a car or a part or a battery or whatever we see in Brampton, Oshawa, and quite frankly down through southwestern Ontario. There are massive pains inside the system, though. Like, you've got to have manufacturers that are saying, like, my inventory on hand is going up because of the tariff issues at the border. We're fighting over who's paying the tariff. Is it me, the producer, or is it the buyer, right, in the U.S.? And so I think that there are definitely pain points, but we just don't feel it as instantly perhaps as some down in the Southwest and certainly in Oshawa.
I know that earlier today, Ingersoll was notified that the bright light drop program that they have will see that cease to exist in Ingersoll. So that's concerning. I spoke to Unifor earlier this morning. They're very, very concerned about that. So there's a lot of fear and anxiety that comes in. And this is where consumers, that goes to the local economy. If there's instability or anxiety, that plays a big role in regards to people and how they feel. And I'm wondering, are you seeing that? Are you seeing any anxiety in regards to your local economy, or are you guys feeling pretty confident?
Look, I think there's a lot of things that are happening locally here that are going to help, just as you're doing things in Oshawa, right? Like, you can't make up for the macroeconomic situation that's happening between Canada and the U.S. There's nothing we can do to overwhelm with positive news that's going to undermine the negative news coming out of the U.S. But I want to spin something back at you for a second. You're part of the auto mayors, I know, right? And all of that stuff. One of the things Mayor Lefebvre up in Sudbury, and I'm a big fan of Mayor Lefebvre, one of the things that he had brought forward was the minerals, the obviously the metals, et cetera, that we're mining here. It strikes me as like kind of a similar conversation to oil, right? Where we go and we take our natural resources out of the ground and we send them to the US to be refined, and then we get the product sold back to us. And if we can find a way to do that work here in Canada, that can be our leverage point to keep Canadian auto jobs, because our natural resources are needed inside of that entire sector.
Yeah, absolutely. And just recently, I think in the last 24 hours, the United States is now trying to negotiate with Australia to get precious metals because China won't sell it to them. They've their trade dispute going on, and I absolutely agree with you. I mean, you look at potash. We've got unbelievable opportunity with potash. There's a lot of opportunities within Canada for our economy. It's about us looking for those new opportunities and then looking at the leverage that we do have and how do we utilize it. I mean, again, as you hear a lot of blustering from one side where, I would be really tough on Trump and I'd be really tough on the United States. The reality being is that I don't know if anybody has the right answer. I mean, we're dealing with an individual that's, the 500-pound gorilla, and he is trying to do everything that he had stated that he was going to do, which was bring Canada to its economic knees. And he's being specific in regards to the targets that are happening. But I think that, what I've seen and what I'm hearing from local businesses and companies is they are determined to look for those markets within Canada, but they're also looking at it at other markets. They just understand that this is a game changer and it's really upset the cart. And the instability or uncertainty about moving forward is very unsettling for not only their employees, but themselves. So it's probably one of those historical moments that you and I as elected officials are facing. And I think it's going to be a time that we learn a great deal, not only about our strength, but also about where our country stands and how we get through this together. So I don't have all the answers. And
East-West, right? Like for so long, we have ignored the East-West opportunity. And that stands both internally and externally, right? Like between provinces, as well as into Europe. I still don't understand. I'm sure you feel the same. Like, I don't understand why Canadian oil and Canadian natural gas isn't powering Europe. Right now you've got, Gazprom, i.e. the Russian government, that is powering much of Europe. Why is it not our natural resources that are powering that? And it would geopolitically, it would have massive repercussions for what's happening over with Russia's invasion, et cetera. And the ripple effect would be large, but it would be large internally here for us too, like the opportunity for more wealth to invest in clean energy, to invest in perhaps advanced manufacturing like we've always said we're going to. But if we leave ourselves where we're just going south, right? Because that's where we got to. We've put ourselves in jail is what we've done.
There's two things that we've learned here, I think, in Oshawa. One's being so dependent upon industry for so many years. At one time in the 80s, we were 86% was industrial. That's what added to our economy. It's 3% now because we've diversified our economy. Many economies, including yours, is continue to diversify because the time calls for us to be able to diversify, and we've got to do things differently. Alex, you know what? We could. I didn't even get to 97 other things that I wanted to get to, but we've been going for about a half hour, and I really respect your time. I admire you as a leader. I'm glad that you play an important role with OBCM, and I always enjoy our conversations. I'm going to ask you if you'll come back and see us again, though.
100%. Before we go, I just want people in Oshawa to know your mayor is awesome, and he's somebody that I take a lot of advice from. And Dan, the way that you're able to express yourself and bring in both lived experience of your own and also the help that you're providing to others into this conversation that we're dealing with, you are a superhero on the subject. And so thank you for leading the way.
I appreciate it. I'm going to be like George Costanza. I'm out now. Like I can't say anything else now. I gotta get out of this. Alex, all the best, my friend. I look forward to seeing you soon, and all the best to your family and, of course, the residents of Barrie. Just a reminder once again, if you've enjoyed our conversations, want to hear more, subscribe to Real Talk Oshawa on Spotify or Apple. Episodes are released on a monthly basis, so let's keep the conversation going. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to our special guest today, Alex Nuttall, the mayor for the great city of Barrie, Ontario. I'm Dan Carter. Till next time, let's keep the conversations going.